Columbine happened 20 years ago today. Redditors that were in high school at the time, what was the ensuing week like? Instead of addressing mental health, my school banned backpacks in response. It was ridiculous. Our school was pretty big and going to your locker between each class wasn't always possible. One girl put her books in box on a skateboard and pulled it with a rope. The next week we could use backpacks again. Our school had two options, mesh or clear backpacks. Mesh were deemed cool but easily got wet, clear were for the nerds although it kept your things dry. School was a weird time. Put a mesh one around a clear one. This was 1999, not 2999. Yes it was. Did you see the line about skateboard girl? Imagine a clear bag in a mesh bag, being pulled along on a skateboard. If we live too much further in the future, we're going to need to evolve in the present. Lots of people blowing up paper bags and loudly popping them in the hallways. Students dramatically ducking for cover. Still happens where I live, but people only duck as a joke. Friend of mine sometimes likes to close up milk cartons and then step on them. Sounds pretty legitimate sometimes. Never gotten in trouble for it and the school's just used to it. Makes me wonder what will happen if someone legitimately does shoot up the school, though. God, that takes me back to middle school days. Kids were always stomping on the milk and juice cartons. Could be heard all the way across the giant cafeteria full of screaming middle schoolers. Or twisting a water bottle to get the pressure up and shooting off the cap. That can definitely get loud like a gunshot. Damn, I forgot about that. Could leave a serious bruise too. I used to wear a vintage navy bridge coat that had a bunch of sentimental value. It was comfortable and warm and kind of stylish, and perfect for the climate I grew up in. When I came into school, I had no idea about the shootings, but the vice principal was waiting for me and gave me the option to give it to him for the rest of the day and not wear it again, or to keep it on and face expulsion. When he told me about the shootings, I gave it up without a fight, and he told me to pick it up at the end of the day from the main office. End of the day comes, and when I picked up my jacket I discovered that somebody had shredded it with scissors. That day, and the days that immediately followed, taught me some valuable lessons about trusting other people. Edit, rip my inbox. Sorry to hear that. Is what it is. It's also 20 years old, I'm past it. I went to a Marilyn Manson concert about a month later. My parents were not happy. #X200B. Edit, the show was April 6, 1999. 2 weeks earlier. My bad. I'm not American, so forgive my ignorance. Could you tell me what Marilyn Manson had to do with that? Marilyn took a lot of heat after Columbine happened. He was blamed as being one of their influences for the shooting. There are interviews with him on YouTube. The game Doom and Marilyn Manson caused the shooting, according to a lot of talking heads. Yeah. It came to light that those kids also made Doom levels. Not of their school layout though, but that was a rumor of fear that made things worse anyway. Those levels are notably on the top 10 infamous WOD level lists. One kid actually made a Counter-Strike map of his high school and ended up getting expelled because of it. Which was super unfair because he'd been working on it before the shooting even happened. Sounds like something I'd do if I was into Counter-Strike. I used to make custom skateparks in the Tony Hawk games and I always tried to make them look like my school. It wasn't the following week, it was the start of the next school year for me. I was an incoming freshman in Sep 99. I remember about a month and they started rounding up the weirdos, calling them to the office for talks. I was called in. I remember sitting between a gothic kid and a heavy metal kid. They both asked why I was there, I didn't know. When my interview got started it was so you get bullied a lot. I was surprised and said no cause I really wasn't. He was like, "Man, you wear a Sailor Moon backpack and have red sneakers." I tried explaining I had a large friend group and wasn't an outcast or unpopular, didn't matter. I had 2 older sisters that never would have tolerated me being picked on, didn't matter. He was convinced I was terribly bullied and rageful over it and nothing was gonna change his mind. I changed tactics, pointing out if he'd talked to anyone who actually knew me he'd know how against killing harming others I was. It was deeply bizarre. It was like he was trying to talk me into wanting to kill people. I never looked at adults the same way after that. To this day I'm a bit scarred about the fact that a group of adults in authority looked at me and saw a killer. I'm not bullied, of course you are. Look at what you're wearing. Pretty ironic. The counselor being the bully. I was in 10th grade. I vaguely remember conversations about it in English class the next day, and rumors flying about anyone who wore excessive black or Marilyn Manson t-shirts. That was about it. Maybe it wasn't overly concerning because it happened so far from us, combined with that mentality of invincibility teenagers often have. Something like that one happened here. I remember Sandy Hook feeling like I was punched in the gut for 2 weeks after, though. I was a teacher and a parent at that point. After Sandy Hook, some kid was overheard talking to another student saying he thought it'd be a funny prank to come to school in a trench coat with a gun. Christmas break happened and suddenly he was showing up to class in a trench coat he'd never worn before and seemed to be inspecting security cameras. When he showed up in the coat again with a blank look on his face, the SRO stopped him and discovered he had multiple weapons, including a loaded gun on him. He was arrested, banned from coming to any schools in the district, and according to his journal he was actually planning on shooting us all up. The school now has a fence with card keys and metal detectors. School shootings are nightmarish. Fake bomb threats every Friday after lunch so we could go home early. Someone left campus to call it in from a pay phone across the street. It got old real fast. Switching to clear or mesh backpacks was the worst part. Those things didn't hold up for more than 6 weeks. The worst part was like any small scratch or anything would slice right through that cheap clear plastic. Same for the mesh ones, they were terrible. Don't you mean they were terrible? I was a senior, and taking a bunch of shop classes to just tread water as I was done. I wore mostly black shit and was into metal, but was just waiting to go to the army basically and was never a problem with anyone. I had one class, Digital Electronics 3, where we had to make circuit boards and program it to make randomized bird noises. They gave us generic black cases and these little red buttons from Radio Shack. Anyhow, day before Columbine my friends and I decided to make them look like bomb switches. So instead of drilling holes for the speaker to this contraption, we drilled push for explosion or whatever. Our teacher was fun, knew we were harmless and laughed, so Columbine happens, and me and my nerd friends are sitting at the lunch table putting these things together before class, because assignment was due, and this is shit we did all year. And cops, administration. We were told to put the devices down and back away from the table. People came and inspected everything, lunchroom cleared. Our parents were contacted. And nobody listened to anything we said. We were assigned this shit, given this shit by the school. All confiscated. Things got weird after that, and my mother actually got me a pack of white shirts. I switched my black ones out for them and didn't bring my electronics out of the classroom. Didn't have any more problems. How was the army, my man? You end up joining? Yes, as a bomb specialist. Hey, if only. My best friend and I both wore trench coats and listened to heavy metal. School administrators asked us to stop, and we spent the rest of high school with everyone giving us awkward looks waiting for us to shoot up the school. They also took the school keys away from the couple of kids who had them, which was a real pain in the ass. I was on stage crew and it was fairly normal for us to be on campus after hours or even on weekends working on the plays. Was a trenchcoat kid, didn't hear about it till I got to school the next day, got strip searched. People were freaked out and wanted something to blame. All my friends' parents freaked out and wanted them to stay away from me. That's weird. You'd think you'd want to befriend the potential shooter so they didn't kill you. Haha, kidding aside, it was used by a lot of people to push already marginalized kids even further aside, which was really shitty. As someone who was at a neighboring high school when it happened, and also wore a lot of dark colors, metal shirts and whatnot, this is exactly what happened. I remember some preppy ass bitches saying shit like, "You look like the type of kid that would do a Columbine." Total pieces of work. On the East Coast, so geographically removed, but one of my good friends had moved from Columbine where he would have been a freshman at the time. Even though the whole thing to me was just a story on the news, he was devastated because he knew the people impacted. It was really tough seeing him watch it all unfold from across the country. I never asked him about specifics, but it was obvious that he had the dreaded mixture of relief that he was not there to be in danger and regret that he was not there to be helpful. Edit, my first goal because a guy I went to school with 20 years ago had a well-timed cross-country move. I've dreamed of my first goal, but I'm a little bummed it took a tragic anniversary to get it. Still, thank you. Hopefully I get more someday for bad puns rather than tragic memories. I was a sophomore in Colorado. We had a new girl in my American history class who had just transferred from Columbine. She was crying in class. The principal came to walk her to the office where her parents were. She knew several of the kids who died. That made it feel more personal.